The morning sun cast long shadows across the cobblestone streets of the old city, when 12-year-old Emma noticed something was terribly wrong. She had been walking to the bakery to buy bread for her grandmother when she saw the man following Mrs. Henderson, the elderly woman who lived 3 houses down from her family's small apartment. Emma knew Mrs. Henderson well. The kind woman always gave her cookies when she passed by her garden, and she often helped Emma with her homework when her parents worked late at the textile factory. Mrs. Henderson was known throughout the neighborhood for her generous spirit and her beautiful garden filled with roses and lavender. But today, something felt different. The man walking behind Mrs. Henderson wore a dark coat despite the warm weather, and he kept his head down while maintaining a steady distance behind her. Emma noticed how he would stop whenever Mrs. Henderson stopped, pretending to look at shop windows or tie his shoes. When Mrs. Henderson turned corners, he would wait a few seconds before following the same path. Emma's heart began to race. Her father had taught her about staying safe and recognizing dangerous situations. He worked as a security guard at the local museum and often shared stories about people who seemed harmless but had bad intentions. The way this man was following Mrs. Henderson reminded Emma of those stories. Mrs. Henderson was carrying a small purse and walking slowly with her wooden cane. She had recently returned from the bank, as Emma had seen her coming out of the building just minutes earlier. The man following her seemed to know this too, as his eyes kept focusing on her purse. Emma quickly ducked behind a fruit stand and continued watching. The man was getting closer to Mrs. Henderson, and they were approaching the narrow alley that led to the older part of the city, where fewer people walked during the day. Emma realized that if something bad was going to happen, it would probably happen in that alley where no one would see or hear Mrs. Henderson if she needed help. Her mind raced with options. She could run to find a police officer, but the nearest police station was 15 minutes away, and Mrs. Henderson would be long gone by then. She could call out to warn Mrs. Henderson, but that might make the situation more dangerous for the elderly woman. Emma remembered her father telling her that sometimes the best thing to do in an emergency was to call for help from people who were trained to handle dangerous situations quickly. Then Emma remembered something important. Just 2 weeks earlier, she had attended a community safety presentation at her school where a member of the Royal Guard had spoken to the students. The guard, a tall woman with kind eyes and a confident voice, had explained that the Royal Guard was not just responsible for protecting the royal family, but also for helping citizens in emergencies throughout the city. The Guard had given each student a special card with an emergency number that connected directly to the Royal Guard Dispatch Center. She had explained that this number was for serious situations when immediate help was needed and regular emergency services might not be fast enough. Emma had kept the card in her school bag, thinking she would probably never need to use it. Now, as she watched the suspicious man getting closer to Mrs. Henderson, Emma realized this might be exactly the kind of situation the Royal Guard member had been talking about. She quickly pulled out her phone and found the card in her bag. Her hands were shaking as she dialed the number. The phone rang only once before someone answered. Royal Guard Emergency Response. This is Officer Martinez. What is your emergency? Emma took a deep breath and tried to speak clearly despite her nervousness. My name is Emma Thompson, and I think someone is going to hurt an old lady. There's a man following her, and she doesn't know it. Emma, you did the right thing by calling. Can you tell me exactly where you are right now? Officer Martinez's voice was calm and reassuring. Emma looked around quickly to identify her location. I'm on Market Street, near the fruit stand by the old church. The lady is walking toward Elm Street, and the man is still following her. She's walking with a cane and carrying a small brown purse. Emma, I need you to stay where you are and keep watching. But don't put yourself in danger. Can you describe the man who is following her? Emma peeked around the fruit stand again. He's wearing a dark blue or black coat, and he has brown hair. He's taller than Mrs. Henderson, but not really tall. He keeps stopping when she stops, and he's been following her for about 5 minutes now. You're doing great, Emma. We have someone very close to your location. Stay on the line with me and keep watching. If anything changes, tell me immediately. Emma felt a little better knowing that help was coming, but she was still worried about Mrs. Henderson. The elderly woman had no idea she was being followed, and she was getting closer to the alley where fewer people would be around to help if something happened. Officer Martinez, they're almost at the alley now. Mrs. Henderson is walking slower because her cane got caught on some uneven stones. "Emma, help is almost there. Just keep watching and stay safe." Suddenly, Emma saw the man quicken his pace. Mrs. Henderson had stopped to rest for a moment, leaning against a lamppost, and the man was moving closer to her. Emma's heart pounded as she realized something bad was about to happen. "He's moving faster now," Emma whispered into the phone. "He's almost reaching Mrs. Henderson." "Emma, stay calm. Our officer is right there." Just as the man reached toward Mrs. Henderson's purse, Emma heard the sound of rapid footsteps on the cobblestones. She looked up and saw a figure in the distinctive uniform of the Royal Guard running toward the scene with incredible speed and purpose. The guard moved with precision and confidence, covering the distance between the alley entrance and Mrs. Henderson in what seemed like seconds. Emma watched in amazement as the situation that had seemed so scary just moments before was about to change completely. Mrs. Henderson looked up in surprise as the Royal Guard approached, and the man who had been following her suddenly realized that his plan was about to be interrupted. Emma held her breath, still holding the phone to her ear, as she witnessed what would happen next. The young girl's call for help had set in motion a response that would prove just how seriously the Royal Guard took their responsibility to protect all citizens, not just the royal family. Emma had made the right choice, and now she would see firsthand how quickly and effectively the Royal Guard could respond when someone needed help. The morning that had started with a simple trip to the bakery had turned into something much more significant, and Emma realized that sometimes even young people could play an important role in keeping their community safe. Her quick thinking and brave decision to call for help was about to make all the difference in Mrs. Henderson's day, and possibly in her life. Officer Sarah Chen, of the Royal Guard, had been patrolling the market district when the emergency call came through her radio. She had been a member of the Royal Guard for 8 years, and in that time, she had responded to hundreds of calls, but something about this one felt different. The young girl on the phone sounded genuinely frightened, and her description of the situation suggested a crime was about to happen. Sarah immediately changed direction and began running toward Market Street. Her training had taught her that in situations like this, every second mattered. A potential robbery could quickly turn violent, especially when the target was an elderly person who might not be able to defend themselves. As she ran, Sarah radioed her location to the dispatch center. "This is Officer Chen, responding to the Market Street call. ETA 30 seconds, requesting backup to secure the area." "Copy that, Officer Chen. Backup is en route." The caller is still on the line and providing updates. Sarah could see the scene ahead of her now. An elderly woman with a cane was leaning against a lamppost, completely unaware that a man in a dark coat was approaching her from behind. The man's body language told Sarah everything she needed to know. His posture was tense, his movements were calculated, and his attention was focused entirely on the woman's purse. Sarah had studied criminal behavior extensively during her training. She could recognize the signs of someone preparing to commit a crime, the way the man kept checking his surroundings, the way he timed his approach, and the way he positioned himself behind his intended target, all indicated that he was about to attempt a robbery. But Sarah also noticed something else that concerned her. The man appeared nervous and agitated. His hands were fidgeting, and he kept looking around anxiously. In Sarah's experience, nervous criminals were often more dangerous than calm ones, because they were more likely to panic and do something unpredictable if their plan went wrong. Sarah reached the scene just as the man extended his hand toward the elderly woman's purse. Moving with the swift precision that had made her one of the top officers in the Royal Guard, Sarah approached from an angle that would allow her to intervene without putting the elderly woman in additional danger. "Stop right there." Sarah's voice was clear and authoritative. "Royal Guard. Step away from the lady immediately." The man froze, his hand still reaching toward the purse. Mrs. Henderson looked up in confusion, not yet understanding what was happening. She saw the uniformed officer and the strange man near her, but she hadn't realized she was in danger. "Ma'am, please step toward me slowly," Sarah instructed Mrs. Henderson while keeping her eyes on the potential robber. "You're safe now." The man's face showed panic and confusion. He had not expected to be confronted by a Royal Guard officer, and he was clearly trying to decide whether to run, surrender, or attempt to complete the robbery despite being caught. Sarah read his body language and recognized the signs of someone about to make a desperate decision. She had seen this before. Criminals who were caught in the act often made poor choices in the heat of the moment, and those choices could put innocent people at risk. "Sir, I need you to put your hands where I can see them, and step away from the lady." Sarah said firmly but calmly. Don't make this situation worse than it already is. Mrs. Henderson was now beginning to understand what was happening. She looked at the man with growing alarm, and then at Sarah with gratitude. Officer, I don't understand. Was this man trying to hurt me? Ma'am, please continue moving toward me. We'll explain everything in a moment, Sarah replied, still focusing on the man who had not yet complied with her instructions. The man suddenly bolted. He turned and ran toward the alley, hoping to escape through the narrow passages that connected to the older part of the city. But Sarah had anticipated this possibility. Her training had taught her to always have a plan for different scenarios, and she had already identified the most likely escape routes. Sarah spoke quickly into her radio. Suspect is running south toward Elm Street Alley. Male, approximately 30 years old, dark coat, brown hair. I'm in pursuit. Before chasing the suspect, Sarah quickly ensured that Mrs. Henderson was safe. Ma'am, are you hurt? Do you need medical attention? Mrs. Henderson shook her head, though she was clearly shaken by the experience. I'm fine, dear. Just frightened. I had no idea that man was following me. Sarah could see other Royal Guard officers approaching from the opposite end of the street. Officers are coming to help you. Please wait here with them, and they'll make sure you get home safely. Sarah then began pursuing the suspect through the alley. Her physical training and knowledge of the city's layout gave her significant advantages. She knew these streets well from her patrol duties, and she understood how people typically tried to escape through this area. The suspect was running fast, but he was not in good physical condition, and he was making poor choices about his route. He kept turning into dead ends and having to backtrack, which slowed him down significantly. Sarah maintained steady communication with the other officers who were positioning themselves to cut off potential escape routes. Suspect heading toward the old marketplace. He's slowing down. Officers at positions 2 and 4, be ready to intercept. The chase continued for several more blocks, but Sarah could see that the suspect was getting tired. His running had become less coordinated, and he was breathing heavily. She knew it was only a matter of time before she caught up with him. Finally, the suspect turned into a courtyard that he thought was another alley but was actually a dead end. When he realized his mistake, he turned around to find Sarah blocking his only exit. It's over, Sarah said calmly. Put your hands on the wall and don't move. The man was breathing hard and looked defeated. He realized that he had no more options, and he slowly raised his hands and placed them against the wall as instructed. Sarah approached carefully and professionally secured the suspect. As she was doing this, she thought about the young girl who had made the phone call. That girl's quick thinking and brave decision to call for help had prevented a crime and possibly saved Mrs. Henderson from being hurt. You have the right to remain silent, Sarah began, as she prepared to arrest the man who had been about to rob an innocent elderly woman in broad daylight. As backup officers arrived to assist with the arrest, Sarah reflected on how this situation demonstrated the importance of community involvement in keeping everyone safe. The Royal Guard could not be everywhere at once, but citizens like Emma who were willing to speak up when they saw something wrong made everyone's job easier and more effective. The swift response and successful intervention would become a powerful example of how the Royal Guard's commitment to protecting all citizens, combined with the vigilance of caring community members, could prevent crimes and keep neighborhoods safe. 2 hours later, Emma sat in the comfortable office at the Royal Guard headquarters, still amazed by everything that had happened. Officer Martinez, who had taken her emergency call, had invited Emma and her parents to come in so they could properly thank her for her quick thinking and brave actions. Mrs. Henderson was also there, looking much better than she had during the frightening incident earlier that morning. She had brought a small bouquet of flowers from her garden and kept telling everyone how grateful she was for Emma's help. I still can't believe someone so young could be so observant and responsible, Mrs. Henderson said, smiling at Emma. You probably saved my life today, dear. Emma felt proud but also a little embarrassed by all the attention. She had simply done what she thought was right, and she was still learning about how important her actions had been. Captain Williams, the head of the Royal Guard unit responsible for community safety, entered the office with Officer Sarah Chen, who had arrested the would-be robber. Captain Williams was an impressive man with gray hair and kind eyes who had served in the Royal Guard for over 20 years. Emma, Captain Williams said, shaking her hand formally, Officer Chen has told me about your emergency call this morning. Your actions demonstrate exactly the kind of citizenship and community awareness that makes our city safer for everyone. Officer Chen added, "Emma, when I arrived at the scene, I could see immediately that you had described everything perfectly. Your accurate information allowed me to assess the situation quickly and respond appropriately. That's not easy to do when you're scared or under pressure." Emma's father, who worked as a security guard, was particularly proud. "Emma, you remembered everything I taught you about recognizing dangerous situations, but more importantly, you didn't try to handle it yourself. You called for professional help, which was exactly the right thing to do." Her mother nodded in agreement. "We're so proud of you for being brave enough to get involved when someone needed help." Captain Williams explained what had happened after the arrest. "The man you saw following Mrs. Henderson has been identified as someone who has committed similar crimes in other parts of the city. He specifically targets elderly people who he believes are carrying money or valuables. Because of your quick action and Officer Chen's rapid response, we were able to prevent this crime and arrest someone who might have hurt other people." Officer Chen showed Emma a map of the city with several locations marked. "These are places where this man committed robberies over the past 3 months. In each case, he followed elderly people from banks or shopping areas to quiet streets where he could rob them without being seen. Mrs. Henderson would have been his next victim if you hadn't called for help." Emma studied the map and felt a chill as she realized how serious the situation had been. Mrs. Henderson could have been seriously hurt, and the robber would have continued targeting other innocent people. "What will happen to him now?" Emma asked. Captain Williams replied, "He will go to court, and if he is found guilty, he will go to prison." The evidence Officer Chen collected, combined with his previous crimes, means he will not be able to hurt anyone else for a very long time. Mrs. Henderson reached over and took Emma's hand. "Dear, I want you to know that your kindness and bravery today reminded me that there are still good people in the world who look out for each other. I've lived in this neighborhood for 40 years, and I've always felt safe here because of people like you." Officer Martinez, who had taken Emma's phone call, joined the conversation. "Emma, I want to tell you something important. In my 5 years of working in dispatch, I've received thousands of emergency calls. Many of them are from adults who are panicked and have trouble explaining what's happening. Your call was one of the clearest and most helpful I've ever received," she continued. "You stayed calm, you observed carefully, you described the situation accurately, and you followed instructions perfectly. Those are skills that many adults struggle with in emergency situations." Captain Williams had a special presentation to make. "Emma, the Royal Guard would like to recognize your outstanding citizenship and bravery with our Community Hero Award. This award is given to people who demonstrate exceptional courage and responsibility in helping to keep our community safe." He handed Emma a beautiful certificate with her name printed in elegant letters, along with a special badge that identified her as a Royal Guard community hero. "This badge means that you are always welcome here at Royal Guard headquarters, and you can call us anytime if you need help or if you see something that concerns you." Emma looked at the certificate and badge with wonder. She had never imagined when she woke up that morning that she would end the day receiving an award from the Royal Guard. Officer Chen added, "Emma, I hope you'll consider staying involved in community safety as you get older. The Royal Guard always needs people who care about others and who have good observation skills like yours." Emma's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, had also come to the ceremony after hearing about Emma's heroic actions. "Emma, your classmates are going to be so excited to hear about this. We'll definitely be talking about your experience in our next social studies lesson about citizenship and community responsibility." As the ceremony concluded, Captain Williams made one final point. "Emma's actions today demonstrate something very important. Keeping a community safe is not just the job of police officers and security guards. It requires everyone to pay attention, care about their neighbors, and be willing to speak up when they see something wrong." He looked around the room at Emma's parents, Mrs. Henderson, and the Royal Guard officers. "Emma showed us that age doesn't matter when it comes to being a good citizen. What matters is having the courage to do the right thing when it's needed most." Mrs. Henderson gave Emma a long hug before they left. "Thank you again, dear. I'll never forget what you did for me today, and I hope you'll still visit my garden and help me with the flowers like you always do." Emma promised she would, and she meant it. The experience had taught her that being part of a community means looking out for each other, and she was proud to be part of a neighborhood where people cared about one another. As Emma walked home with her parents, wearing her new Royal Guard community hero badge, she felt different than she had that morning. She realized that even as a young person, She could make a real difference in people's lives. Her quick thinking and brave phone call had prevented a crime, helped catch a dangerous criminal, and kept Mrs. Henderson safe. The story of the young girl who called the Royal Guard spread throughout the neighborhood and beyond, inspiring other people to be more observant and willing to help when someone needed assistance. Emma's remarkable actions on that ordinary morning had created a ripple effect of positive change that would last much longer than the ceremony or the award. Most importantly, Emma had learned that heroism doesn't require superpowers or special training. Sometimes it just requires paying attention, caring about others, and having the courage to ask for help when someone is in danger. Her swift and remarkable response to a dangerous situation had proven that anyone, regardless of age, can be a hero when it matters most.